At any point in your life, have you had a lot of goals but struggled to be productive? Or maybe you have dreams but don't know how to put those into action? That's me too. For work and life, I used to have a pretty clear knowledge of what to do. I was a nurse in America and I had structure to my days. I knew how to prioritize things because I was prioritizing the patients who were in the worst health. I had algorithms and protocols that guided me. But now I'm in a new era of my life. My life and work and goals look nothing like they did before. I am setting new goals and learning different skills. So I'm here to talk to you not as an expert, but as a fellow learner. We're going to talk about things that keep us from making progress, how to make effective goals, and ways to fall in love with the process of it all. And of course, since this channel is focused on learning English, all of what I'm going to talk about will relate back to language learning. Hey, before we get started, I need a quick favor from you guys. Would you subscribe to my channel if these videos have been helpful for you? Thank you so much for watching them. There are so many things that we want to accomplish. Even within the category of language learning, there are many milestones to achieve. We have goals for the week, the month, and the year. We are often disheartened when we don't meet our goals, whether they are big or small. I mean, think about whenever you've made New Year's resolutions, but have quickly forgotten what those goals were. Not meeting these goals doesn't necessarily mean you're lazy, because a lazy person probably wouldn't have even made goals in the first place. Maybe you just have a fear of failure. Often, the reason I don't start to act on my ambitions is because I'm afraid of failure. Before even starting, I picture what it would feel like if I failed, and I want to avoid that feeling at all cost, so I never begin. When I actually sit down and examine this fear, though, I usually find that my fears are not even valid in the first place. Let's take myself learning Vietnamese as an example. Sometimes I fear that I'm secretly dumb and don't have the ability to learn. But when I look back at my past academic achievements, I know I'm not dumb. Maybe I'm not as good at learning language as some other people, but my goal is not to become like someone else, but my goal is to learn Vietnamese. Or sometimes I fear that people will think I'm dumb because I can't communicate. But the reality is that most Vietnamese speakers are incredibly gracious to people like me who are trying to learn. But even if someone is unkind to me, they're not important in my life anyways, so I should not care too much about their opinion. Maybe it's not a fear, but I just don't like hard work. I like a comfortable and easy life. Well, the truth is that learning a language is hard. So I need to accept that hard work is good and that it brings a lot of benefits. So those are a few of my fears. Maybe you have the same fears, or maybe you have different ones. Either way, I encourage you to take some time to write out your fears concerning learning a language. I think you will find that the fears are not as scary once you actually face them. Even just naming the fears makes them lose their power. I recently read a post from Ali Abdal, who is one of my favorite productivity influencers. He was talking about this, saying that viewing his goals as an experiment helps him to not fear failure. After all, if experiments fail, that's okay. You just try again in a different way. Viewing goals this way helps us to not take failure too personally, meaning it's not us who failed, but the way the experiment was conducted. Fear is, what if something bad happens? But let's change that what if statement to be, what if something good happens? What if I succeed? Let's use that mindset and talk about how to make effective goals. Maybe you've heard of SMART goals. SMART is an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Often we have this overall goal of, I want to speak English fluently, but that goal alone is not very helpful. It does not guide us in how to become a person who speaks a second language fluently. That's where SMART goals come in. Let's talk about what each aspect means and give some examples. S is for specific. You need to be specific about what you will do to learn language. Maybe your specific goal is, I will spend time listening to an English podcast. I will review my vocabulary flashcards, or every day I will journal in English about what I did that day. M is for measurable. So, how long do you want to do the specific things you just mentioned? In your goal, say, I will spend 5 minutes listening to an English podcast, or I will write half a page in my journal every day. A is for achievable. You need to think about if you can even do these goals. For example, it is not yet possible for me to journal in English because right now I don't know enough vocabulary. So that goal is not achievable for me. But it is achievable for me to review flashcards or spend 15 minutes a day on a language learning app. Or maybe for you, it's not achievable to spend a whole hour every day learning language, but you probably have 15 extra minutes every day to practice, so make your goal accordingly. R is for relevant. This goes back to your why. Why are you learning English? Will learning English impact your current life? For me, 3 years ago, learning Vietnamese would not have been relevant to my life. I didn't even know Vu. I barely even knew where Vietnam was on the map, and I never planned on being in a situation where I needed to know Vietnamese. But now, of course, learning Vietnamese is incredibly relevant to my everyday life. I need Vietnamese for basic life necessities. Vietnamese is the primary language of my household. So you too need to think about how learning English is relevant to your life. Probably learning about English literature is not relevant, but learning how to communicate with your clients in English is very relevant. So make sure your learning relates directly with your ultimate goal. T is for time-bound. Learning a language is a lifelong process, so split it into phases. For example, you don't have to set a goal to journal about your day in English for the rest of your life. Just make your goal for a month at first and see how it works out. If it doesn't work or if it's too hard, that's okay. You are not a failure because of it. You just need a different goal for the next phase. So you have this goal of learning English and you're really excited about it. But being fluent in a language takes a long time, and we get tired of the day-to-day process of meeting that goal. So we have to find a way to fall in love with the process. Here are a few things that I'm doing to help me fall in love with the process of learning Vietnamese. First, I remind myself of my why. I need to learn Vietnamese so I can thrive in Vietnam. And I live in Vietnam in the first place because that is where the most opportunities are for my husband and I, and so that our future children can have a strong Vietnamese identity and know their Vietnamese family. Also, when I learn Vietnamese, I surround myself with things that I like. Sometimes that's the simple things, like sitting in a cozy corner of the house and having my favorite drink next to me when I learn. My favorite way to learn language right now is through an app, and so I make that a part of my daily language learning routine. I have to be careful with this though, because the necessary things of learning a language are not always the most enjoyable. I can't only do the fun things in learning a language. But it's about balance, doing both the fun and the hard things. Community is also an important part of falling in love with the process. Language can be divisive in nature. Being around a foreign language can feel isolating at times. So when learning a language, being part of a community is a way to work against that isolating feeling. I am currently studying with a tutor, so I don't have anyone who is studying the exact same things as me. But I do have friends who went through this exact same process a few years ago. So I talk with them about their experiences and we relate. I have a childhood friend who just moved to Spain and started studying Spanish about the same time that I started learning Vietnamese. So we talk about our struggles and our victories. And I also have this channel. You're probably here watching this video because you too are trying to learn English. We're in this together, trying new things and working towards our goals. I don't claim to be an expert. I'm newly married, living in a new country, doing new work, and have only just begun to learn a new language. I'm learning things along the way, and I'm just here to share that with you in hopes that you can learn along with me. So, what's a goal that you're working on right now? It could be about learning English or anything else in your life. Let me know in the comments down below. Okay, thank you guys for listening. Goodbye for now, and I'll see you in the next video.